Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you today. I'm pre-recording this from a small cabin in the woods on a small island off the coast of Western Washington. It's my great pleasure today to speak on behalf of the Deep-Ocean Stewardship Initiative. This is a scientific network that was established in 2013. We call this network DOSI. DOSI was developed to address the growing threats to the deep ocean that are emerging from climate change, from extraction of resources, deep sea fishing, oil and gas extraction, genetic resource bioprospecting, and potentially deep seabed mining. Also from other human influences such as pollution, waste, debris, mine tailings disposal, and so on. DOSI's vision is a healthy deep ocean able to contribute to the wider Earth system through its sustainable management informed by independent science. And this is really the crux of DOSI, bringing science to management and policy. DOSI seeks to achieve this by advancing science, by informing policy using expertise across multiple sectors, and through enhanced global capacity and collaboration. DOSI is uniquely positioned to accomplish this because it's led by scientific experts. It's able to inform policy through establishing participation in science-led policy discussions and negotiations. DOSI holds official observer status at several UN agencies, and it has a unique collaboration model in which we partner with other organizations and also with UN delegates. DOSI is leveraging a network of over 700 people to boost scientific capacity and to foster a global generation of deep sea stewards. DOSI has a leadership team of 5. You see the people listed here, and an advisory board of about 15 people. But really all of the work, all the action happens within DOSI's working groups, which I've listed here. And they are led by a wonderful cadre of people you can see depicted. DOSI has great dedicated participants. And what I'd like to do with the remainder of the presentation time is to give you some examples of how each of these 10 working groups acts and the kinds of difference that they have been able to make through advocating for the input of science. I'd like to start with the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Working Group. We call this BBNJ. This group provides input to delegates negotiating a new treaty on biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction. This treaty has a focus on area-based management tools, on environmental impact assessment, on capacity building, and on sharing benefits from marine genetic resources. This group acts through the preparation of policy briefs and also by providing input to the draft treaty text. Just as one example, DOSI had co-sponsored a workshop on marine genetic resources in Aberdeen. This led to a publication, and many of the key concepts in this publication have actually been introduced into the BBNJ treaty text, which is still in draft form and continues to be negotiated. The DOSI Minerals Group is one of DOSI's most active working groups. It provides extensive input to the International Seabed Authority, which has jurisdiction over minerals on the seabed in international waters. DOSI's input involves critiquing the draft mining code. DOSI's had input on both the exploration regulations and on 4 different drafts of the exploitation regulations. DOSI has provided guidance or input on environmental guidelines and on definitions such as that of serious harm. It's also provided critique of the ISA's strategic plan, and at the regional level, DOSI recently submitted a very lengthy critique of an environmental impact assessment submitted by India for test for the testing of its mining nodule collector. DOSI routinely will send representatives, observers to the ISA meetings in Jamaica. DOSI holds side events at these meetings to convey science to the delegates and other participants. And DOSI routinely participates in a variety of different ISA workshops, for example, the Regional Environmental Management Planning workshops. The DOSI climate work provides input to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. That's the UNFCCC, which is responsible for negotiating global carbon emissions reductions. DOSI also has input to the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and recently DOSI members contributed to the special report on ocean and cryosphere in a changing climate, making sure that the deep sea was highlighted. For example, in the iconic burning ember diagram you see here from the IPCC, there are now 4 deep water habitats depicted. This diagram displays the risk of climate change in the future at different ecosystems. There's also a deep sea figure in this report showing how climate change impacts different deep sea ecosystems. DOSI will regularly send participants to the COPs, the climate negotiations, and will hold side events, again, to convey the importance of the deep sea in climate regulation. And DOSI produces, DOSI working group members produce policy briefs related to climate. Overall, the effect has been to broaden the recognition of the deep sea among climate change scientists and negotiators. The DOSI Decade of Deep Ocean Science Working Group is developing a 10-year deep sea science program called Challenger 150 for the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. This program has a variety of objectives, but fundamentally it's attempting to build a plan for surveying the deep ocean in a representative way to characterize biodiversity, ecosystem functions, connectivity, and other attributes. The deep sea, the DOSI Fisheries Working Group is been around since the start of DOSI, and the efforts of the working group members have been very influential in the development of a EU deep sea trawl ban below 800 meters. This has been very important policy action. This group has also provided input to the South Pacific Regional Fisheries Management Organization, a variety of different kinds of science. It helps them plan for deep sea fisheries in international waters. And this working group has teamed up with the DOSI Climate Working Group and with the FAO to produce the technical report you see here, Deep Ocean Climate Change Impacts on Habitat, Fish, and Fisheries. The DOSI Marine Genetic Resources Working Group acts to provide cross-fertilization between the Convention on Biological Diversity and the BBNJ Working Group in the arena of marine genetic resources. They are developing best practices documents through and producing white papers and policy briefs. The Oil and Gas Working Group also provides best practice recommendations. It's doing this for a variety of countries. Very recently, working group members critiqued an environmental impact statement for oil and gas drilling off South Africa. And due to their critique, the officials have now halted multinational activities and requested further review of the EIS. The DOSI working group members were able to show many of the shortcomings of that statement. The Deep Sea Tailings Disposal Working Group addresses best practices for disposal of terrestrial mine tailings in the deep sea. They produced a very successful report on best practices for Papua New Guinea and are now working to raise this to a global scale with a global best practices seabed tailing disposal guideline document. The New Technologies Working Group has developed EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, best practices and standards, and an open access manual for use by mining companies internationally. And the most recent working group, the Pollution and Debris Working Group, which really just started up, has a goal of improving public awareness and promoting research into the patterns, impacts, and relative risks of pollution and debris in the deep sea. This group will advocate for the consideration of science on these topics in policy development and conservation initiatives, and will provide expert opinion where needed. I hope that if any of these topics interest you, you will consider joining the very inspiring and dedicated community that is DOSI. By joining DOSI, you can make a difference, you can raise awareness about the deep sea, and you can help find solutions to the many challenges and growing challenges which face the deep ocean at this time. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening and wish you a great meeting. Thank you. Oh, I meant to say, you can find us online at you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Instagram, and when you do find us, please join us. Goodbye and thank you.